Good morning and welcome to Mental Health Matters Office Hours with me, Dr Audrey Tang. My co-host is Judith Crosier, and this is the show where we look at all things workplace wellbeing. We have got Tom Gold joining us. Now, you've all heard of the man cave. Well, he has taken therapy, support, or rather not calling it therapy and support, but working with men with challenging problems, with communication, with friendships, beyond the man cave. In fact, outside the man cave. Let's head over to the studio. Tom, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thank you very much, both of you. Very excited to speak with you today.
Well, we're very excited to speak with you because you have got such a different concept to the man cave, and I can't wait to hear all about it. So do you mind sharing, first of all, your professional journey?
Yeah, absolutely, Audrey. I think in terms of relevance to what I do now, it started quite a lot of years ago. I just finished university. I went to work in the United States at what was then a correctional boot camp for young guys who'd been in a lot of trouble. They'd been in gangs, East and West Coast street gangs, some tough boys. This was out in the middle of nowhere in Arizona. And that's when I first noticed the effect that nature in all its glory can have on people, the sort of soothing, calming effect that it has, and the way that it actually makes people more thoughtful, philosophical, and readier to talk. I'd never seen that before. I've always been an outdoor kind of guy, but these were some very, very tough young men who'd been through some very, very rough experiences. And yeah, in truth, they'd done some pretty terrible things, some of them. But the Southeast Arizona is a magnificent, beautiful place, and the landscape worked on them in a way that I was not expecting to see when we were on expeditions out in the hills. Yeah, those were some good times when the boys could become a lot more philosophical, thoughtful, and reflective. And I can only assume that the place itself did that for them. Since then, I've worked as an adventure holiday guide, as an outdoor instructor. I've qualified as a life coach and a bushcraft instructor. Now I coach men. Sometimes, yeah, regrettably on Zoom, as often as I can, either individually or in groups, sitting around a campfire with a kettle hanging over it. Because I think we'll come to that. It's an environment that, well, I learned a long time ago that it really works.
We are going to come to that because I think that is something that was so unique when I was reading about your work, because we have the man cave, and the man cave is very much about sharing and speaking, but actually what you do is you give them the context, putting them in nature, using the fireside, using just generally being out there with other people, having worked together that day, and then conversation naturally flows. It's not a case of sit around in a circle and tell me how you're feeling, because that works for women very well, but I don't think it's necessarily the context that men love. So I think that, what are the benefits that you found getting beyond that therapizing approach to men's mental health?
Well, there's a few strands to that, Audrey. Firstly, from my experience, men relate very well to this meeting format, if you want to call it that. Humans, or our pre-human ancestors, have been congregating round fires for, I think, just under 1 million years is the first known actual deliberate campfire site. It was outside a cave in Africa. Wow. And those people sat around that fire in a circle. Who knows what the purpose of that was or what they shared. But the important thing is the format hasn't changed at all in all the intervening time. It's always interesting that you never have to tell a group of people to form a circle round the fire. Somehow we all know that this is how we're supposed to sit. And you will always see people staring inwards at it, or watching the sparks twist up into the darkness. And even if they're not saying anything, you can take a look at them and you think, yeah, actually, do you know what? They're in a good place. Yeah. You know, this is, it also provokes a sort of an honesty that you don't always get in a circle of chairs in a room with white walls. My personal preference isn't to take it round the circle, right, Dave, let's hear about all your anxiety. I think if you set this format up right, people are going to talk. Yeah, there's often an agenda for this, but I don't put anyone on the spot. The other thing, of course, Audrey, and this is true for everybody, is that being out in nature has some tremendous spin-off benefits for our mental health. We're calmer, we're more focused, we can actually be more creative, and we're happier. There's just over 100 years worth of research has gone into that, and it shows the same findings practically every time. Soldiers returning from the trenches of France in 1918, many of them in a very, very bad way with their mental health after the horrendous things they'd seen, were helped back to an improved standard of mental health, to be happier and calmer with outdoor therapy. A lot of it was horticultural based, but yeah, a lot of it was this traditional format that just seemed to work for them. Since then, from that day to this, yeah, the research generally backs up that this environment out in the trees, bird song, a great view, suppresses so much of our anxiety and stress. It doesn't make our problems go away. There's the crucial bit, but we are in a better place to engage with them when we come back. So yeah, it's a big part of why I've chosen to do things this way.
Oh, it sounds amazing when you explain it and you can picture that kind of environment. So can you tell us about your workshops and your courses that you run, please?
Yeah, this summer I'm focused on, I'm doing a lot of coaching with guys, either individually or groups. I'm also running programs for some of my more regular clients, National Health Service, other government bodies, and various charities that I work for. Those aren't exclusively men's groups, but they are all geared around connecting people with nature. I'm also running over this summer a program that I call Take It Outside, which is a 2-day course really showing people how to do what I do so they can set up that environment, a shelter, a fire, a kettle hanging over it, cook some food so that they can work and engage with their own clients, peers, colleagues, etc. in that format. And this has worked very well historically for, in particular, people making their recovery journeys from drugs and alcohol. I can show their peer support workers and staff how to create this environment in 2 days, whereas it would take me that number of years or more to learn what it's like to go on that journey and down that road. So for a variety of groups, training them to run their own programs works really well. And I'm really looking forward to those courses. They're always a lot of fun. They're quite hard work for everybody, but it's always a great couple of days.
It is, and it's such a bonding experience. I think that's all part of it. It's working together. It's I guess what we used to see as the team building activities, which I know got a bad reputation at one point. But actually, you're really showing how they work really well.
It's interesting that, Audrey. I used to, back in the day, I worked for a company that delivered team building courses. And we're talking about negotiating imaginary chasms made of traffic cones and tiger tape.
Building a raft.
Building rafts that always sank. And solving to the really quite pointless little challenges, and then rounding it off by saying, and now you're a better team.
Yeah.
I mean, this was the height. I mean, I think we can be honest now. This was the height of the .com boom, and these guys just had money to burn. It was unbelievable what they were, the sort of cash they were ready to spend on this. And really there's very little valuable content in it. And we did a lot of things that actually split teams up and divided them. I think that's the problem with traditional team building is you don't want to be the guy who doesn't make the jump from the top of the waterfall. Yes. And yet, there was tremendous pressure to do these really crazy things. And I don't think it was productive at all. Not in that sense. It was, way too much bravado. But I mean, of course, these businesses were all about that, being sort of bold, being ready to take risks, etc. To an extent, I understood it. But looking back on it, fun as it wasn't really as productive as to taking a slightly more sort of philosophical approach to using that same environment.
Yes, and I think you do that absolutely beautifully, and you're quite unique in this approach. So what would you do when you've done the the workshops together, and maybe there's some people who don't want to join in even organically in conversation? I know, and I've seen it and happen in the circles where you come to that person and you still sort of try and encourage them to, and it's awkward and it's awful. How do you navigate that when you recognise that happening?
Yeah, absolutely, Audrey. Actually, before I answer that question, I know time's tight on this show, so please don't let me ramble on. I have a habit of doing that. I feel sure you'll put me straight if that happens. But very often, particularly with men's groups, you'll get a guy he just wants to chop wood. This is a big part of it. We have to sort of gather resources and prepare them. That involves using sort of traditional edged tools, axes, knives, and saws. A lot of guys relate very positively to this, even if they haven't done it before. It's not a difficult skill to acquire and share. And if I get someone who's just happy doing that, well, I'm not going to interrupt him to break the experience down for him. I'm not going to say, right, Dave, what you're thinking now, or why you're sort of dialed into this at the moment is because I'm going to let him do that. If I can see that he's in a good place, I'm never going to put anyone under pressure to talk. I'm sure all three of us have experience of sitting in a circle of chairs with a badge with our name on it, waiting for it to come round to us so we can talk about ourselves. You're thinking, oh God, I hope I don't say, I hope it sounds interesting. I never do that. We'll always take it round the circle and we'll do first names. Beyond that, no one's under any pressure to talk. But you will often find that happens organically. Someone will share something and immediately other people in that group will support them, with either a nod or a, yeah, I hear you, I get it, I'm dealing with the same thing. Everyone goes away thinking, do you know what, I'm not the only person dealing with this. It doesn't have to be soul searching, you don't have to bare your soul. Sometimes it's okay just to be part of that group and listen. And you know what, if someone's ready to come out into the trees with a group of total strangers and do this, they have my respect and appreciation from the start. I'll never put them under pressure to talk.
Honestly, we need you to train the trainers right now, because we would have so many, I think, much better results from training if people approached it like you. Because I think even now in schools have become very therapeutic environments with teachers who are not trained in therapy and not trained as coaches, who are trying to get everyone to get in touch with their feelings in a way that makes them just retreat even further. So, Tom, we're glad to have you on this show. You're staying with us. We'll be back just after this.
Navigating today's workplace is tough.
Toxic employees, endless drama, a lack of motivation. We've all been there.
But fear not, we are here to help. My name is Leanne and I'm a chartered psychologist.
My name is Al and I'm a business owner. And together we dig into the scientific and commercial secrets behind great workplace cultures in Truth, Lies and Work.
A no-nonsense, award-winning psychology podcast brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network. We explore practical strategies for building a great workplace.
We debunk buzzwords and bring you the very best advice around finding and keeping great people, from personality tests.
Personality tests they're mostly bollocks. I don't know what kind of language you do on your podcast. I don't know if people know this, but the man who wrote the Wonder Woman comics is the person who invented the disc.
When more flexible working became a norm, you no longer hurt your career prospects by being the one person who worked flexibly.
All the way to avoiding high turnover.
We recruit and promote people to managerial roles based on their technical skills, not their people skills. This is a very fundamental problem we have, which we haven't directly tackled.
From toxic-free cultures,
Interventions for the individual are only half the answer. Systemic change is the other half.
to sustainable growth.
Thinking beyond just paying somebody a good salary, I think is super necessary now. We have to offer so much more than that.
We have got you covered.
So join us on Tuesdays and Thursdays where we help you to simplify the science of work and build amazing workplace cultures.
Welcome back to Mental Health Matters Office Hours, where we're talking to professional coach Tom Gold about the support of men beyond the man cave in nature. It's a fascinating discussion. What would you say are some of the key causes of mental health issues in men at the moment?
Well, from experience, and I'm talking really just about, my own personal experience of working with guys, there's a few strands to this. And I will, they're all big issues in themselves, so I'll try to be brief. I know time's tight on this, on the show. One of them is enhanced online connectivity has really fragmented what were social groups that our fathers were members of. They might have done stuff together. They might have bowled together. They might even have gone to church together in their communities. They might have helped organise events. I grew up in a little village in Northamptonshire. There was always something going on at the village hall that involved guys coming together to move benches or bales for seating. I mean, I'm sounding very rose-tinted here, but there's a lot less of that now. The work from home revolution. I live in a little village in Scotland. Tremendous number of people have left the city to come here because it's a better quality of life, but they're also fragmented from social groups by the nature of their work, and they don't know anybody here. And again, generalizing, please forgive me, guys aren't brilliant at making new friends in their 40s and 50s. It's something that perhaps some of your viewers would agree with this. I don't think we do well. Another big problem is something that American author Michael Easter talks about in his truly fantastic book, The Comfort Crisis, and that's something called the movement drought. We are more sedentary now, men, than we were in our father's day or even 20 years ago. Some of your older viewers may remember running to get the phone. Now we don't do that. Even older people, I count myself among them, will remember getting up off the couch to change channels on the TV. These are just two very small things that are now completely gone, and they're part of a small but incremental sort of increase in, or sort of decrease in the amount of movement that we do every day. And that actually can have a very negative effect on your mental health. You can be sedentary all day and then thrash the treadmill for 40 minutes, but it's not actually the same as staying mobile through the day. And I do see this as a source of problems. Also, and this will be the last one, although there are a great many, social media has presented us now with the vision of manhood that we're supposed to aspire to. I guess there are a few different versions, but I suppose the classic one is a guy whose body looks like a bunch of grapes, who obviously lives in the gym, something most guys simply don't have time for. He's got a picture perfect life and nothing ever seems to go wrong for him. Whereas in reality, a lot of guys my age and perhaps a little younger, they're making good money, but they're paying huge mortgages. They might be making payments on 3 cars now because they've got older teenage kids who don't speak to them. They may have a menopausal wife who they don't fully understand. They're working under tremendous pressure at work. They have a dwindling circle of friends because, the average number of close friends a guy had 20 years ago was something like 15% higher than it is now. It's a big change. This all sounds extremely gloomy and negative, but the road back starts with giving yourself permission to do some of those things that will enhance the quality of your life. And I know that that's so much easier said than done. And a lot of guys might be watching this thinking, that sounds great, Tom. But it does start with giving yourself permission, hacking out some of that time, and really visualizing yourself as the guy that the people around you need you to be. I think that's a big part of it as well. Something we don't often take the time to do. Well, not so much need you to be the guy they would like to see you as, and that's sort of, for your kids, for your partner, for your close friends. Wow. So there's 3 things. Clearly, that's a big topic, and
it is.
We could talk all day on that.
But I think you've highlighted 3 very key things, and things, especially the movement one, we won't normally think about.
No,
so I think that's very important.
It's a really, really good point.
Of sedentary lifestyle.
Exactly right. Very interesting.
my father was a doctor. He was a general practitioner, and that meant sometimes he was on call, which meant calls came to the house. Dad would put the phone in the window of the kitchen when he was in the garden, and when it rang, he'd have to sprint in from the garden. He'd have to negotiate the back door, the back passage.
Yeah.
Then he'd sort of sweep his way into the kitchen, dodging chairs and people, make a massive grab for the phone, only to discover that it was for my sister, who was probably sitting next to it and hadn't answered it. But I mean, this is sort of just a small part of that movement that's completely evaporated now. You know, we don't have to do these things. You can just tap your earbud and you've answered that call.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And a lot of that as well comes down to the spaces available for men, and some of those are dwindling. So, for example, Scouts now allows girls, but how important is it for men-only spaces to be retained so that men do have that, not necessarily a safe space, but a space without women? Yeah, and that's absolutely right, that they should have those spaces.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think it's absolutely priceless. And as someone who's been a Scout leader back when my boys were little in our village here, you know, the fundamentals of Scouting are as relevant today as they were when Baden-Powell first came up with the idea while he was serving in South Africa in 1901. Boys learn to be men in the company of other boys. It's really important. It's things like learning where the boundaries are, learning how to function as part of a group of men. There's an old saying, as iron sharpens iron, so one man can sharpen another. I think it speaks to us at an older, perhaps darker time in our history, but there's truth in it. When you see boys together, they learn about things like setting boundaries and standing up to be counted when they know that something's wrong. I mean, you know, there's always that rough and tumble element to it as well, which I don't see necessarily as toxic. I think, you know, these things are healthy in their way. Yeah, I think it's very, very important to have those spaces, and also, you know, as men, to have them.
Yes.
You know, sometimes you need a space to share things that just might not fly too well on social media. And I hope that doesn't sound controversial, but it's really, really important. Around the campfire, there is an understanding that what's shared there stays there.
Yes, exactly.
And nowadays, you know, you can quite literally blow your life up with one ill-judged comment on social media, and that's you. That could be your job, you know, your future, the whole thing. I'm not condoning, you know, some of the sort of more deliberately explosive things that are shared there. But, to have a space where, you know, you can road test some of this in a safe environment, absolutely crucial.
Absolutely, because I think men will then they will correct you and they will steer you in the right direction. And they will do it in a way where no one's been hurt, it's that safety.
Yes.
Exactly. And also that, you know, we have conversations sometimes, or the government does, or whoever, about young men should all do national service. But no, I think it should be the Scouts, that all men should go to Scouts, because they're much younger, and it starts much sooner, but that kind of the regulation that they might not get.
In a boy-only space.
Exactly right.
I think
that's what I mean.
Yeah. Really important.
Totally.
And it's great. If girls want to do brownies and things with the similar kind of activity, great, not a problem.
Yeah.
But
let the boys do their thing.
Call me old-fashioned, but I totally concur. I think it's really, really necessary. You know, they are going to differ with each other. They are going to squabble. We can work through that.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And sort of relating to the social media point that you made, there is a problem with the toxic masculinity hashtag.
Yes.
Because it really implies that masculinity as a whole is toxic, which it absolutely isn't.
No.
And so, is there a better narrative that we could or should be using?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I think, you know, men's groups provide the opportunity to celebrate all that's great about masculinity. It's a long list. You know, guys, and this is not exclusively, obviously these things aren't exclusive to men, but values like, you know, courage, integrity, physical strength, and an ability or a willingness to put out a hand for your brother man are all traditional elements of the man code, and they're priceless. Yes, obviously those are feminine virtues as well, although I would argue that I think men express them and perhaps rate them as a sort of, in terms of importance, perhaps in a different way. But yes, celebrating what's great about being a guy. Yeah, I don't think there's enough of that. We've got a growing list of things that we're not supposed to do and that should all come to a stop. And that's being handed to our young men now. You can't be this or you're toxic. Whatever happened to, wanting to be great? Whatever happened to wanting to be recognized as a good man? Someone in your community who delivers, who's a role model to other young men. Because to do that, you don't have to be, a Men's Health cover model. You don't have to own a Ferrari or wear those ridiculous tight pants with leather shoes and no socks. What's it?
Oh, no.
What is that about? What is that about? If you know, put in the comments, what is that about?
I feel so old. But you don't need to be that guy to be recognized as a good man. But in order to be that guy, you've actually got to have some signposts as to what that's going to involve. And to be constantly told what it's not involved or what it doesn't involve, toxic masculinity, etc. Yeah, I think that's there's got to be a flip side to that coin, and we need to share that.
Absolutely. And so sort of relating to that, how do you think we can better meet the needs of both men and women, boys and girls? How can we, because I think we need to do better for both sides, really. But right now, it does feel as if men are getting a shorter shrift. Okay, personally, I love, for example, a man or anyone actually holding a door open for me or opening a car door for me. I think that's all very lovely. And yet men can get really shouted at.
Yeah, God, you can get absolutely roasted for that sort of thing. I was very much brought up on those sort of ideals of, of being a gentleman. The word was used regularly by my dad, as this being a standard to which we need to aspire. And absolutely central to that is respect and courtesy towards women at all times. And Christ, heaven help us if that becomes toxic, but I think it's really important. We fail to help our young men understand its value, and we're going to lose something very, very valuable and precious. I have two sons. They're 17 and 19. But, I'm not just raising two men. I'm raising someone else's girlfriend, someone else's husband, and someone else's father.
Yes.
These are the... in my sort of 70s and 80s driven narrative that still goes on in my head, I'm trying to share some of the things that I still think are valuable with them.
Yes.
I have to understand that they're growing up in a world that's as different from the one I grew up in as day from night, but there's still one or two things that count and are still relevant. And I've worked pretty hard on those with them. They roll their eyes a lot, but yeah.
Oh, no, I think it's so important. And I think it teaches women as well that it's in the same way. If a man, I was filming something, this is many years ago, with a doctor who's my age, so 50 plus. I had to walk into a cafe because we were filming in a cafe. They wanted to film that. He immediately stood up and he said, "Oh gosh, I can't not stand up when a woman walks to the table." And I felt so respected and valued, and that teaches a woman something as well, I think. So I think that gentlemanly behaviour also gives something back to the woman. It's not diminishing who she is.
No, not at all.
Well, Audrey, I like that guy already, whoever he was. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Somebody put the time and effort into, helping him become that man who thinks of these things, who does these things without thinking, really.
Yeah.
Second nature.
Maybe this is my age, I don't know, but I miss some of those things because I think those things taught me what it is to be a woman.
I agree, and also I think this is giving men permission to go, oh, thank God, I can actually be...
I can hold a door open.
Yes, I can be a gentleman. I can be what it is to be a man, and there is a distinction. There is a distinction between men and women, and we shouldn't be afraid of it.
And there is a distinction between something like mansplaining versus
Yes.
a man standing up when you walk in a
Yeah.
room. There are it's huge.
Yes, exactly right.
And we can tell.
Yes.
We can tell. Anyway, we were keeping Tom because this is such a great conversation, and we'll be back just after this.
A world without the arts is one without confidence, creativity and community, and yet funding has been reduced every year. Arts programmes have been shown to benefit social inclusion and well-being, particularly for marginalised groups, with projects fostering a sense of belonging, cultivating mutual understanding, and breaking down social barriers and isolation. Participation in arts programmes can help boost confidence and open doors to opportunities that may otherwise be inaccessible. Click Arts Foundation offers grants up to £2,000 for grassroots arts projects twice a year, with our community arts experience trustees meticulously scoring each project on impact and sustainability. To date, we have supported craft and visual arts projects, dance, drumming for well-being, and preservation of heritage and culture. If you share our passion, not just for maintaining the arts themselves, but contributing to the many benefits it can bring, please consider making a donation to Click Arts Foundation registered charity.
We are having such a refreshing conversation with Tom Gold today, and we are talking, going beyond the man cave. We're talking about men's mental health in the context of nature, in the context of male bonding, and in the context of trying to get away from this narrative of toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Now, what I love about you, Tom, is you keep things real. Your website quote says, if success were determined by sharing inspirational quotes, we'd know a lot of successful people.
Yeah.
And I think this is the thing. There's so many platitudes and things like that put out there on social media. And it's not right. What you're talking about is something a bit more fundamental. What for you is the success of that, building a healthy foundation?
Yeah, I think, well, learning to have a healthy relationship with social media might be a big part of it. You know, these quotes and memes that float around on social media, they are just a little sprinkle of sugar on the day. You know, you can do it if you really try. And we read that and you think, do you know what, that's all I have to do. I just have to never give up. And suddenly everything's going to fall into place. And then we forget that quote when we hit the next bump in the carpet. It's gone because it was never our idea. And it's just a generic little bit of fortune cookie wisdom that's thrown out there by someone who wanted some likes. That sounded unbelievably cynical, Audrey. I didn't mean it as if...
I agree
It's very
with you.
true, yeah.
I agree with you.
What I encourage some of my clients to do, you want to share on social media, make your own memes. Make that picture of you and put your words underneath. That will resonate. With no one else, it will resonate with you. That's something that a little talisman that you can return to. It might be a memory of a very difficult time or experience that you overcame. It might be an achievement that you really slogged for. It might be a picture of you standing on top of a mountain, and what you actually think yourself posted underneath will be more valid, more relevant, more meaningful than anything else you're gonna read. One of the most quoted people on the internet is Bruce Lee. But Bruce Lee, he never had to deal with my ex-wife or any of the other difficulties that I've had. A man of wisdom, definitely. But, it's simply not relevant. That's his idea, not mine.
Yes.
So make those, if you're going to do that, make it about you. And something else as well I really warmly encourage people to do is before you post something on social media, attach your own value to it first. Yes. Assess it in your own terms. Was this good? Was this cool? Does this represent me? Was this something that I feel was really important? Because social media obviously will then attach a numerical value to it for you in terms of likes, in terms of views, in terms of traction, and in a qualitative sense in terms of what people said. So before you let that post ruin your day because it didn't get enough likes, evaluate it for yourself first. Look at that picture and think, yeah, do you know what? That was great, what he did. It was, it was an achievement, or it was a really fun day. Yes. Or these shoes that I'm posting a picture of, I really like them. I don't care what anyone thinks. Value it for yourself first, and then it won't blow your day up when you look back at it 20 minutes later and no one's seen it. It's got no views.
That's the thing, isn't it? Because you've got...
I know that.
You're posting for yourself, aren't you? You're posting it for you, or at least that's what we would be doing it in a healthy context, not for other people.
Have that social, sort of healthy relationship with social media. Social media is a genie we can't put back in a bottle, but we can learn to live with it, perhaps in a state that allows us to be a little happier. Evaluate that thing first before you post it. Know that you yourself are happy with it, and that this represents something that you did that was cool or fun or great or whatever. Because for sure, the value everyone else attaches to it will colour your own perception of it, and that can cause you to devalue that thing. And you'll think, oh, actually, maybe me climbing that mountain wasn't so cool, or perhaps, no one likes my new shoes. Maybe I shouldn't have bought them. No.
Yeah.
Be your own man, be your own person.
Fully agree.
Yes.
And sort of going back to the bushcrafting, how do some of those skills that you use there also set us up for life? Because I think resilience is a huge part of it. And sometimes I know with a lot of physical tasks, I struggle with them. But if I carry on doing them, there's this sense of achievement at the end of it. And you go, yes, I did. It may not be very good, but I did it. And that feels good.
Absolutely, page one, Audrey. Yeah, a lot of the people that I work with in that environment, perhaps, for a variety of reasons, it's been a while since they had a win. So if you can go out into the trees, ideally on a day when the weather's less than fantastic, if you can put up a big group shelter that keeps everyone dry, if you can gather the resources for a fire that then keeps everyone warm, and ends with everybody with a hot drink in their hands. Well, firstly, you've transformed an inhospitable, uncomfortable environment into one that you might like to sort of spend quite several hours in. But you've also demonstrated to yourself your ability to transform and improve your life in real time, in the moment. All three of us sitting here, and I'm sure some of your viewers at home will have at least 2 or 3 things that they could do in the next 48 hours that would improve their lives.
Yeah.
It might be a application form that's been lying on the coffee table for a little bit too long. It might be a phone call you've been putting off. It might be something that you're really not looking forward to doing, but on the other side of it is, an improved personal situation. Learning to transform your situation with your own 2 hands in real time, I think, is a really, really useful take home. And the outdoors can give us that. Yes. We've had sessions on the foulest, coldest days, and we've made it work. And I've not wasted the opportunity to congratulate everybody in transforming, or asking them to remember what it was like when we first got here before we established ourselves, and what we've achieved in the meantime. And what I hope is that they take that home in terms of, wait a minute, there's 1 or 2 other things I can do in the moment that are going to make my life better too. Yes. And if people are taking that away from those sessions, then I've definitely got something right. So the outdoors can be a harsh teacher sometimes, but if you can learn to exist within nature, just in that sense, just for the half day, you've done something great, and you should definitely recognize that in yourself.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, it's very powerful, isn't it? So talking about successes, what are the narratives that we might need to change around that, which, as you've touched on before, that social media or marketing companies can kind of feed us the idea of success, but how do we need to change that narrative?
Well, it's interesting. I attended a funeral just last week, and in the eulogy, a lot of great things were said about this guy, my uncle, as it turns out. It may sound a little morbid, I would encourage people to think about how their eulogy will sound, because it may not be a list of the cars they drove, the beautiful women they dated, the money they made, the traction they got on social media. It's much more fundamental things like being there for your brother man, being someone who was solid and reliable, someone who was good fun to hang out with, someone who, set a good example and lived by it. I think these are the things that we can use to evaluate our success. And we're talking about men here as a man, to be recognized as that oft used phrase, a good man. You know, what does that actually mean to you? Because it's very often irrespective of the sort of images were shared on LinkedIn of what success looks like. Well, that's a guy in tight pants on a sort of lit up walkway in Dubai with a cocktail in his hand. There's me being cynical again. Apologies.
No, it is.
You know,
You've just been on LinkedIn this
yeah,
morning.
exactly.
That's all.
But, you know, to be recognized as that guy, to sort of, you know, have those things to look back on, I wonder if it really will be that, or whether it'll be being recognized as someone who was there to put his hand out to a brother man and to listen to him, or to make the effort to call someone you haven't heard from in a while and say, how are you, man? Lay it out for me. Tell me what's good. Tell me what's bad. I'm listening. You know, maybe these are the standards that we sometimes lose sight of, but they make us into that guy who will be remembered in a certain way. Yeah.
Exactly.
This is a slightly long-winded answer to your question
No,
there.
it's a great answer. And actually, I was at a wedding yesterday, and you're talking about your uncle's funerals. Sorry for your loss, but and I was at a wedding yesterday, and that was exactly what everyone who did a speech said about the groom, that he was there, always there to pick up the phone to check on people, or is so generous with his time, a really, really good friend. And these are the things that are so important, you know. That's really true, isn't it? Yeah. It's the small things, but the thoughtful things that make a man, really. That's amazing.
Yeah, apparently, so the story goes, when my great-grandfather passed away, they found 3 gold sovereigns in the top pocket of his nightshirt, but he couldn't take it with him. You know, it was the only thing left, really, was how he was remembered. I don't know what he was thinking was going to happen. 3 gold coins, but it's the same with the Porsche, the big house, and the Rolex watch. You ain't taking that with you, and you won't be remembered for it.
Exactly right.
My goodness. Tom, it's been so great to chat with you. Where can we find out more about you?
LinkedIn is a good place.
Avoid
I'm on there.
avoid the other pictures.
Thing.
Yeah, avoid the marketing.
With all the pictures of me on holiday telling everyone what a great time I've had. You can also find me at beyondthemancave.co.uk, and there's an Instagram of the same where I post most days. A lot of it's about outdoor stuff, a lot of it's about guy stuff, and I would welcome anybody's input and indeed criticism and frank and robust thoughts on anything that they see in those 3 places.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tom. We would love to have you back, and we'd love to have you in person in the studio. It would be great to chat in person. Maybe try some of the, if it's possible to do it inside the studio, some of the exercises that you do. It's been such a refreshing conversation. Thank you so much.
That would be my absolute pleasure, and thank you both so much for having me on the programme. I've really enjoyed speaking with you both today.
It's been so much fun. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you.
And we'll head over to Business Boost. So if you've been inspired to improve your sense of adventure from today's show, these are a few things you can do. Number 1, go on a different walk. So even if you're in a familiar place, take a different route somewhere. See if there's something new that you can see. Maybe even take some photographs of anything that you discover. Try something different for food. That's number 2. Because again, we can get very used to eating the same thing. Again, maybe you don't want to spend too much money on trying something new, but give something a go. Give something different a go. Try geocaching. Now, geocaching is a bit like Pokemon for adults. You follow trails left by and clues left by other geocachers, and then you find a little. It's usually a little case where you can write your name to say that you found it on the inside. So bring a pen if you're going to do it. But it's a smartphone app, and that's a lot of fun. It takes you into some strange places. Another do something new is read something new, or maybe do some DIY or change up your room.
Another thing that you can do with children or without them is remember the sense of fun that you had when you were a child and build yourself a den. And this could be putting your sheets over your dining room table, as something I used to do. Or maybe you want to get a tent and spend some time outside in the garden. You can camp in your back garden and admire the stars, or even create a treasure hunt or try an escape room, although I know escape rooms can be a little bit expensive, so do be mindful of finances. Maybe you want to change up your wardrobe and then give an in-person fashion show, or even exchange clothing with your friends. Or create or use a home gym or a garden gym. You might even want to try one of the ones in the parks that you see. And the last thing to get a little bit more adventure in your life is find a charity to support and do something that's new for you. So whether that's training for your couch to 5K, or whether that's dressing up and going somewhere and doing something, whether that's a fundraising event. These are just some of the things that can bring a little bit of difference into your life. Well, last bit of the show. I'm so refreshed by that conversation.
Me too. I think it's really good because Tom just said it the way that it is, and the way that it used to be. I know quite a lot of the conversation was, well, not quite a lot of the conversation, but it was referred to how things used to be, you know, and back in the day, etc. But those values are so valid and really shouldn't disappear just because modern world is the way it is. You know, why shouldn't a man stand up when a lady walks in? I love that, and I love the fact that how you said it made you feel when that happened to you. Yeah. And you know what? A woman can stand up. If I was meeting someone, I was sitting at a table or something, I would naturally stand up. So it's a value that everyone can have, but when it's a man standing up for a woman, it means, I don't know, it just means a bit more. It means a slightly different. It is a very subtle difference.
But it's a form of respect.
Exactly right. Yes, it is, and that shouldn't disappear.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I never realised that I missed that, actually. It's like when Tom was talking about walking to change the channel. I used to have one of those, you know, you push the button on the telly. And I've completely forgotten that actually now I just, where's the remote? Oh, am I sitting on it? You know?
Yeah, and it's funny because we got a new little, you know, aircon unit the other day, and it has a remote control. And I've deliberately put that away because I'm like, no, I'm not going to sit here just changing it like this. I'm going to make myself get up. So that is a real thing, isn't it? That we don't move as much as we used to.
So I think for me, what I'm taking away from this is I'm going to reflect on some of the things I used to do and used to like, and maybe try and do some of those again, because they were actually very good. But modern life has taught me new habits, and I'm not necessarily sure whether I like all of them.
No, that's actually a really good takeaway from this. Yeah, I like that.
Work to do this week.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you?
Gosh, I think it's really funny because all of our guests, when we say what do you do for own well-being, they always say nature or a variation on being outside, and so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure that I spend more time outside still. You know, I'm outside walking my dog a lot, and that's good, but being still and noticing things. So that's my takeaway from it.
Love it, love it. And from all of us here at Mental Health Matters Office Hours, have a healthy week.